Welcome to Writing Easy, the podcast that takes the act of writing, which can sometimes be not easy, and tries to make it less not easy. I'm one of your hosts, Mary Mascari.
And I'm your other host, Melissa Long.
Ready, set, go.
All right, I'm writing.
Yep, so go, you're writing, right. Ah! All right, so what we've just done, we just did a little scene for you guys. This was what happens at the beginning of a writing sprint, which is what we're going to talk about today. Melissa, would you like to define what a writing sprint is? It's when you write while sprinting. No.
That's challenging. That's very, very
hard. That would be really hard. Yeah, I don't think I could do that.
Even on a treadmill desk, it's hard. It's hard.
I don't think I could sprint, so that's really the problem.
So, writer's sprints, they're very, very common. If you're on Twitter or social media or Facebook, anything like that, you've probably seen people arranging groups and talking about them. But the idea is essentially that a group of people get together, they set a timer, and they write as many words as they can within that given time limit. So sometimes they're 10 minutes, sometimes they're 30 minutes, sometimes there's a specific goal, and people, like I've seen recently, people saying like, let's do 1,000 words in 30 minutes, a super sprint or something like that. So it's a good way to turn the critic off in your head and just put words on the page and push forward, even if you don't know all the things, all the answers. You stop trying to make your work perfect and you just write.
You can also do them by yourself. I sometimes will do them. I'll sprint alone, where I've got a little. You can get this little, like the Pomodoro Method is kind of part of that as well, where you've got, you do like 15 minutes on and 5 minutes off, or 20 minutes on and 5 minutes off, or something like that. Little timers that go off, and to say, okay, well, for this amount of time I'm going to write, and then I get a break or whatever. And it's kind of a nice way of keeping your attention, because you maybe can't sustain your attention for so long. You can say, okay, I'll get to it in 5 minutes. I only got 5 minutes left. Just do it right then you can take a break and goof off. I find that to be very effective for me.
Yeah.
Again, either with people is better, but sometimes that's not feasible.
Yeah, with people, like having other people do it just adds to the accountability, so it gets you started, and you're like, it tells your brain is just like, oh, like I don't want to let those other people down, so I gotta actually listen to the timer and sit here and put some words down, and they're gonna ask how many words I got, and so you can use that, like that, I don't know, voice in your head to your advantage of like giving it some boundaries and some accountability.
Or sometimes people will do it just on Twitter, like I've seen. Writers just be like, hey, I'm going to start a writing sprint, ready, go. And, then you tweet back and say, here's how many words I did, which is, actually a really clever way of kind of building some community and, being supportive, and then people get to participate. And you can feel like, oh, I don't want to leave, let this author down or whatever, I want to be with them. It's a really clever thing.
Yeah. So I think in terms of where you find them, like, right, you say you could do them on your own. You can find them on Twitter if you search like writing sprints. I know there's an official NaNoWriMo writing sprint account right now that is active, so you can always search that and follow them, and they have different people running it all day long, so whenever the writing need like sparks, you can jump on there and join one. I've seen Facebook groups, I've seen Discord groups.
It's it's really nice because you don't have to be in person. You just do it. You turn your camera on. And turn your, and have someone be the timer and say, ready, set, go. And then you go. It's a really nice way of connecting with other writers too, without any real pressure. It's probably pretty easy to put together. If other writers, be like, hey, let's set up a sprint group, meet every day online or whatever at 3:00 and we'll sprint or whatever.
Yeah. Man, do I miss the in-person writing sprints though. Those are a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah. So the problem with the in-person ones. That's true. The only problem with the in-person ones is that I find that you chat more in between sprints. Which again, good if that's what you want to do. That's nice to actually talk to people and stuff like that. But when it's online, it tends to be, okay, sprint, okay, 5 minutes, blah, blah, blah. Okay, ready, next one, go. It's a little more on task in my experience.
But, I think it depends on the leader. It depends on who's doing the time. Like, if they're not a strong extroverted personality, yes, the in-betweens can drag out. But some people are like, nope.
Yeah.
Time's up.
Moving on. The tool I use on my Mac is called, I think, Get Focused. And it's nice because it keeps going. Like, here's your 20 minutes. Okay, here's your 5 minutes. And then here's your 20 minutes. I don't have to start it again. It just goes. So that like, time's up. Okay, I get it back. Oh, okay, break time. The only other thing I'd say against sprints, just as a negative thing, is it does kind of, you can kind of break your flow. Because, after the time is up, you stop. And what if you're like, oh, okay, I stopped, like, and then everyone's talking like, well, I'm still going. I didn't want to, so that could be a downside for some people, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had a problem taking a break. That's never been a problem for me. But, I could see that some people might not like it because it's, because it does interrupt, you don't ever really get into that whole, magic flow state because you keep getting interrupted.
I think though, so I think that's true. I think the benefits of a sprint or the Pomodoro technique or method is that it helps eliminate procrastination, because sometimes getting started is the hardest part, right? It's like, like I have to open my laptop, open the document, stare at this blank page. I'm not sure what I want to write. And it just takes all of that out and is like, go, just like put some words down on the page. Yeah. And that can push you into that flow space. And then it's easier to continue, like sometimes even without the timer, because now you're like creating and you're like, okay, I got this. I can do this. I remember. I know how to write. Yeah. But I also think that sometimes, like when you have that break, like I noticed if I don't take breaks, I can only go for about an hour anyway. And then I just crash. Like I don't have any kind of mental capacity to write anything. Yeah. But if I'm taking those 5-minute breaks, I can go for 2 or 3 hour. Like I can just do a longer session because I don't have the eye strain. I'm getting up. I'm moving my body. I'm using the bathroom. I'm getting drinks. And that pause just allows me to regroup and come back like really quickly with like a different train of thought, as opposed to like running down this same scene till it's dead, like, which is what I would do if I didn't take a break.
One of my favorite tools for sprinting is something called Write or Die. Which is, there's a web-based version, there's a desktop version, but basically it's a thing you write into, and if you stop typing, it gives you little reminders. You set a timer, you set a pace, a word goal, a time goal, and you go. And you can make it really, really evil, where it starts honking makes horrible noises if you stop, for too long, and then also can reward you. Like I've mined every 100 words, it shows me a little picture of a puppy. And that makes me very happy. So I'm like, 100 words, I did it. Yay. You can have it set so you can't backspace. You can also apparently do word wars. I've never done that, where you like actually kind of do a live, I think, competition with someone else to see how many words you can make. One of the I once wrote a story where I had turned off the backspace and also had the idea that I was going to come in with and write the worst story ever, and I ended up writing something really nice that actually sold. But it's not something you use. I think it's kind of early in the process is where I think this goes for me. This sprint, this sort of like generate ideas. It's like this is where you kind of do the word vomit, that just like get all the stuff in there. I don't find it's as useful for things like revising and editing and stuff. I don't know. How about you? Do you use that in later stages too, or no?
I think it depends. I do use it, but usually on my own or with a smaller group of people where like we're just kind of flexible and we're like, hey, the goal is to sit at your computer and work on your project or do whatever writing task needs to get done. I sometimes can get overwhelmed by revisions and edits, especially when I'm working on fiction. I for some reason I find it's easier for me to edit my scripts than it was ever to edit fiction. And so that was helpful because it was, I would procrastinate because I doubted myself, or I thought, oh, this is such a painful process, that telling myself I only had to get through 15 minutes at a time was like very, very freeing.
You get the accountability, you get the support, you're not in it alone.
And I reward myself for completing each
Yes.
sprint. So whether that's
Yes,
a Hershey's Kiss or I do something to say like, good, you made it. And you get a pat on the back and a little treat or something. And then you move on. You do it again.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, that method is really a good way of going about difficult tasks. Break it into chunks. And then after each chunk, give yourself a prize. Because we're robots that live on serotonin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just give yourself a little, whoa, okay. Yeah, you can train yourself. That's a great idea.
And writing, is it like writing a novel? Like editing a novel? I don't know about you, but staring at a stack of like 400 pages, that was intimidating.
Absolutely.
Editing. Yeah. So that's where it became really helpful for me.
Yeah, for me, it's really helpful. The thing that scares me the most is the beginning where I don't have anything, where I'm starting to try to come up with ideas and try to work out the plot. That's the scariest part for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that moment where I would like open up Write or Die and have the timer going and have no idea what I'm going to write is terrifying. But what happens is I just kind of start putting words down and then ideas start to come. Are they all good? Absolutely not. But some of them are. Everyone, you get something. So it's a nice, kind of jump out the airplane and then figure out how to. What was it? You, figure out how to swim halfway down, but it's not swimming. I'm mixing my metaphors. Jump out and then make my parachute on the way down or something. Am I making any sense?
No.
Am I ranting like a crazy person again?
You lost me at the metaphor.
Okay, well, yeah. Metaphors are tricky. They're slippery things.
You're right. Yeah, I think, so there are a couple of other ways that I've seen writers leverage sprints in the past that I think are really interesting and intriguing, especially here in LA. There are a couple of co-working type spaces that are writer focused. And they will hold sprints. So if you're a member, you can get a guest pass and you can go there and do writing sprints. There's folks who they'll add a theme, or they'll add hey, everybody try and incorporate a knife into the scene that they're working on. There's ways that you can play little creativity games just to challenge yourself or to get outside of your own little bubble. And I think that's fun too. And I've also seen sometimes, I feel like, I'm thinking it was maybe my RWA chapter, but I remember we would have regular meetings and we would sometimes start with just a writing sprint and just as a way of hey, we're all writers, let's do something fun and let's just play, and then we'll talk about it and then we'll move on to the rest of our business or agenda. So there's some creative ways that you can play around with it and use it too, that aren't just about getting progress on your individual novel, but also giving yourself time to play and practice and create new things.
It's also a nice way to work writing into your life if you're busy. Knowing that you can do it in 15, 20-minute chunks means that, maybe I've got 15 minutes, I can do a sprint, open up the computer and go. That's a really handy skill to have. And I think sprints help you develop that.
Yeah. And how many people do I know who have written in their car, on their lunch break, in the back room of a Starbucks when they were working? Being able to turn on and just go and write whenever you get a few free moments is a really great skill to have. And this helps.
Yeah. So get yourself a timer, get yourself some friends. Try to do some writing sprints, because they're a pretty good technique for creativity and productivity and other activities as well. It's an activity. I can't think of any more activity words.
I'm really puzzled. I'm how many sprints does it take to equal a marathon? I'm now back on the metaphor train.
Except because you can't you don't run the same way in a
sprint.
I'm but they build up, and you figure, have they? Oh man. I don't like to run anyway unless something's chasing me. So even then, I'd probably hide. So all right. And again, metaphors falling apart. All right. Well, I think we'll wrap up on that nonsense now. Just as a final thing, just to remind you guys, if you can, Try to rate and review the podcasts on Apple Podcasts. If you know someone else who's a writer and you think they'd like this podcast, tell them about it, because that really helps build the word of mouth, helps help us find people find us, and then you get to look cool because you've recommended a helpful thing to somebody. So that's always good too.
Yeah.
But we'll finish up by saying, remember that writing is hard.
So take it easy.
I'm Mary.
And I'm Melissa.
Bye, guys.
Bye.